On today's episode of the LoCo Experience podcast, Kristin Todd returned to share some updates from the NoCo Foundation. Kristin was previously my guest on episode 136 when she was yet fairly new in the role, so listeners might choose to tune into that episode for a deeper dive into her life and career journey. The biggest news up front is that yet another guest of the LoCo Experience podcast has started their own. The NoCo Voices podcast officially launched in March and features topically focused conversations with community leaders. So far, they're 5 episodes in and have several more on the docket, so give them a listen and follow. Our conversation today was spent pulling back the curtain on how community foundations do their role in the community, and especially what sets the NoCo Foundation apart. Kristin details their 3 pillars of core foundation services, strengthening the nonprofit sector, and convening regional stakeholders to address complex issues, such as the Larimer and Weld County tension with water, with transportation, with worker mobility. Kristin also introduced a new client engagement model since joining the team, which has resulted in active community grant activity increasing from $7 million to over $16 million during her tenure. Later in the conversation, she also shared some life and family updates, sampled our crazy ginger hot sauce, and shared a LoCo experience of backpacking with a friend for a semester in Europe, sleeping on trains and not deciding on the next stop until getting to the train station and seeing what the schedule allowed for. She's a leader of leaders and a great conversationalist, so please enjoy my conversation with Kristin Todd, President and CEO of the NoCo Foundation. Welcome to the LoCo Experience podcast. On this show, you'll get to know business and community leaders from all around Northern Colorado and beyond. Our guests share their stories, and through it all, you'll be inspired and entertained. These conversations are real and raw, and no topics are off limits. So pop in a breath mint and get ready to meet our latest guest. Welcome back to the LoCo Experience podcast. My guest today is Kristin Todd, and she is the president and CEO of the NoCo Foundation.
Thanks, Kurt.
Welcome
Pleased
back
to
to
be
the
here.
studio.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been 3 years, probably.
Has it? I was trying to think about
so.
that when it was
Do
here.
you remember your episode number? I could guess at it
I
then.
do not, but I do remember it was the very first time I had ever been on a podcast.
Are you a veteran now?
I'm kind of a veteran
have a
now.
podcast
We actually
now.
launched a podcast,
Let's
so we
talk
have our
about that.
own podcast.
So tell me, was being on this podcast at all influential in that? Or tell me about the process of making
a
that
little
decision.
bit. It just seems like more and more. It's just an interesting way, I think, for people to get to know what's going on in Northern Colorado and get to know people that are doing things. And so earlier this year, we launched NoCo Voices.
Okay.
And our tagline is Conversations with Neighbors Who Are Shaping Northern Colorado.
Oh.
And just a nice way that we felt like we could elevate folks throughout Larimer and Weld counties who are doing really cool things, who maybe don't always, community may not always be aware of that.
If you look at your card there that I gifted you, I think it said something about being a change maker for our region. So that's part of making that change is lifting up voices that are also making change, right?
You bet. So somehow maybe you without knowing, kind of launched or planted a seed that has grown, and now.
So tell me, what have you done so far? Like how many episodes and
So,
any favorite ones?
Yeah, so we did. I think we've got 4 that have released so far. So we're still early in.
Yep.
We have another 3 that are being edited. So we're releasing them
Okay.
about every 2 to 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
And we did one, our first one was with 2 of our board members. And so we talked a little bit about what is the NoCo Foundation and why are we launching a podcast.
And who are these board members? Are you allowed to say?
Sure, yeah. So
Seems like it's public information.
yeah,
at this
Nick
point.
Rowe is our
sure.
board chair, Loveland, leader in Loveland. And then Nicole Stodinger is our vice chair.
Big slacker.
Yes,
Nicole.
exactly. She's not involved in anything. So we just had a fun conversation about who we are and why we
Actually,
were
I listened
launching
to
a
that
podcast.
one now that I reflect. I'm not sure I must not have subscribed, so I don't see it
you
pop
need
up.
to
So
follow us.
all you listeners out there that are tuning in for this conversation, like subscribe and share both the LoCo Experience and the NoCo
Voices. Yes, so
podcast.
follow both of us. And then our second episode was an interesting one. A big part of what we do at the NoCo Foundation is promote regionalism and to bring lots of regional stakeholders to the table to grapple with some of our challenging, complex issues. So I'm sure we'll get into some of that. But our second NoCo Voices episode was outgoing Mayor Jenny Arndt and outgoing Mayor John Gates in Greeley.
Oh,
So we
okay.
had Fort Collins and Greeley mayors on talking about what kind of their reflection on being mayors of two very different communities, but needing to work together on behalf of the region.
Yeah, and what's that really look like to work together, right? Like it's sharing roadway expenses and things
Yes.
like that, but it's also understanding where transportation patterns are happening, what the water needs and opportunities
Water,
are,
housing,
being good neighbors
all
in
of
that,
those
right?
big
Like
issues.
Greeley and Fort Collins have
Yeah.
had more than a few water spats over the years.
Indeed. And we probably always will. However, I think what they would say and what I believe is that if we treat each other as people and we try to get to know one another as human beings, that we have a whole lot more in common.
For sure. I mean, we're hugely blessed to have both like kind of a tech and education and healthcare forward county in Larimer and a very agricultural manufacturing kind of and energy.
Right?
Like
right.
between those two regions,
Very
we've got like
complementary.
7 major kind of industries covered at a very
Yeah.
strong way.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah.
Not to mention the education over there and other things as well. But
Right.
a lot of opportunities. So I guess what does that role look like for regionalism for the NoCo Foundation? Like, is that built into your charter virtually?
It is in the sense that we talk about our work. Well, I talk about our work in 3 buckets. And I think actually if I went back and listened to the podcast that I did 3 years ago, and I think then we were talking about 2 buckets.
Oh, is
and
that
so
right?
it's this interesting evolution of our work. And just to kind of quickly give you
Please.
the
Yeah,
overview,
let's
because
do,
I think the
'cause
framework
a lot of people
helps,
aren't very familiar with the foundation.
and
if
the
I'm
framework
honest, so-
helps, I think, describe what we do. So I would start by saying we've been around 50 years. So we have been around a long time. We were founded in 1975. And the purpose of a community foundation is to essentially aggregate resources for the benefit of the community. And so we have a very long-term look at how do we work with donors, work with generous folks in the community, bring philanthropic dollars together, aggregate them, invest them for the long term, and focus on issues that
Yeah.
really impact our quality of life now, but for generations to come. So we have this very long look,
big long lens
yes.
view.
And so we inspire philanthropy. We try to help people with their philanthropy. We house donor advised funds. We house different types of philanthropic funds. We have about 200.
You're a vessel for that.
We're a vessel for that.
Especially those community-minded folks. If somebody wants to just seed their alma mater with $100 million, that isn't really your place to step in between.
Exactly. But for philanthropists that are more like you and me, I would
Right.
say we can provide a service and help philanthropy make it be seamless, easy, strategic. I laugh and say we're the philanthropic easy button. We want to make philanthropy easy so that more people will join in and recognize that everybody can be a philanthropist, right? You don't have to have $100 million to give to your alma mater.
And that's one of those. Is that the new bucket?
That is
okay.
the.
So let's describe the buckets.
Yes.
can we?
Okay. So back to the bucket. So what I've been describing is really what I would call our core work, and that's the work we've done for 50 years. Over the
The
years,
things that every community foundation kind of
exactly. And I would also say that we are one of about 900 community foundations around the country. We have about 20 or so in Colorado. And all community foundations, even though we say you've met one community foundation, you've met one community foundation, generally speaking, they all do that.
They all have donor advised
They all have
funds.
donor
They all have
advised
kind of a
funds.
map
They're
of
working with
local causes
philanthropy.
and needs.
Yes. So so that is fairly common. And then when you get beyond that bucket is where community foundations tend to differ.
You're more differenter.
Yes, more differenter. So our second bucket, which I think is the one that we have elevated since I was with you last, and that is how do we support the nonprofit sector? Recognizing that the nonprofit sector, when we have a strong, healthy, vibrant nonprofit sector, we're all better off. It impacts all of our quality of life, whether it's nonprofits that are focused on food security, conservation, arts and culture, you name it.
Yep.
And so we also believe that philanthropic dollars go further when we have a strong, healthy, vibrant nonprofit sector.
Sure.
So we take a look at ways
That's the action arm for that philanthropy.
Exactly. So how do we, not only through our grant making, and so we do put about $16.5 million into the community each year, but beyond that grant making, how can we help through, perhaps it's low interest loans, perhaps it's through training and capacity building and building peer networks. How do we build up the nonprofit sector and help them be the best that they can be? So that is a bucket of our
the
work.
most efficient that they can be as well.
Exactly, so that we get the outcomes as a community that we're hoping to get that impact all of our lives. So that's bucket number 2.
Okay.
And then bucket number 3 is a real evolving, expanding body of work for us. And that's where we're digging into regionalism and what are the biggest community needs out there, and how can the Community Foundation step in and help the community work towards solutions. So
specifically with that regionalism
exactly.
lens.
So you might be familiar with our intersections report, which was a regional community needs assessment. So we use data and say,
I do remember.
what are the issues that we're facing? We all know that we have been facing rapid growth. It has slowed a little bit, but still, what are the impacts of that growth, whether it's on our transportation systems, our housing affordability, our water availability? And so some of those really big, complex issues that need to be solved regionally and not in silos. And so we use data, and then we bring people together.
You kind of be an aggregator of not just of financial resources to do these kinds of studies and things, but also to bring enough of the right voices to the table.
Exactly. We in that bucket, I call us the kitchen table, right? Let us be the regional kitchen table to bring the right people together. We are not necessarily the experts, but we can get the right people around the table to have the right conversations so that we can work towards solutions to some of these big, wicked challenges that we face.
Can I be so bold as to ask what are the big wicked challenges? And from whatever lens it's appropriate.
Sure, I think none of them would surprise you. And if you looked at the intersections report, which really gave us, I think, for the first time, a shared language and looking regionally. And so the issues that were surfaced, again, no surprise.
And people can find that on your website, by the way? Okay.
Yep, NoCoFoundation.org. And if you go to intersections or the community engagement section, you'll see that. Okay. And we can talk a little bit more about that because we're actually starting to work on version 2 of that initiative. But the issues are transportation, affordability of housing, childcare, or issues around workforce, which are tied to the other issues
demographics,
of housing, aging. We have a very rapidly aging population, which then puts pressures on
Everybody was 35 when I moved here.
Right. Right.
Nobody's 35.
No, nobody's 35. So mental health, transportation, workforce issues, housing affordability, and water, I say, are the ones that generally bubble to the top. And the two that the NoCo Foundation has chosen to really lean in on are water and housing. Okay. And so as the conversation goes on, we can talk more about that. But the other issues we felt like there were enough people that were already working on those issues, and that there was really not a value add for us to come into the conversation. But we've been working on water and water sustainability for about a decade, and then housing is a new initiative.
Housing, the big thing seems to be liability on the associations and the build quality and the insurability on the condos.
The condo, so that's a big...
It's so that more people should have condos, but the legal situation is such that people aren't building them because they can't take the risk.
So yes, that is a big part of the issue. Yes. And so we published actually 2 weeks ago a new report, first ever regional report on housing, and it's called Housing at a Crossroads. And it really is an invitation to the community to say, we cannot continue on our current trajectory. We need to come together, and no solution should be off the table. We're going to have to really look at things creatively if we're going to change the trajectory. And the trajectory is pretty harsh. Larimer County is actually the worst There was a study that was done recently
income
by the
to housing
yes,
costs?
so income to housing. So they call it a housing mismatch. And of all the counties in Colorado, Larimer has the highest mismatch
Wow.
of wages to housing affordability.
Yeah. And it was when I moved here in 1999, my pay went up $2,000 a year and my housing went up $5,000 a year. Already it was mismatched 27 years
Exactly.
ago.
And it has just progressed. And so that
Yeah.
that unaffordability factor has grown exponentially. And what's interesting, if you look at our demographic shifts, so I mentioned our growth is slowing. It's still rapid. We're still rapidly growing. Some pockets, particularly in Fort Collins, have slowed in growth.
Sure.
But other pockets in Larimer County, so Timnath and Severance and
Yep.
Weld County, is still growing. But what we're seeing is a change in household demographics. And so you alluded to this a moment ago. We are aging.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we have a need for our household size has shrunk. People are not having as many children. They're having fewer children. And so over the years, our household size
there's a
has
bunch
shrunk.
of extra. There's too many big houses.
And we are building houses. Our housing size gets bigger and bigger and bigger over the last
Still.
10 years, and our household size is shrinking. So we have a mismatch in what we're building. And a big part of that, you mentioned, it's a variety of reasons why. One is just the regulatory environment, and the fees are such that it is actually more economical to build a bigger house. And we've made it through policy so difficult for builders to build condos because of the construction defect law and the liability that you mentioned. So we are not building the right size
Right.
that we need. And that has just exacerbated the issue.
I had Ryan and Sarah Woodland on just recently. Are they out? No, not yet. But they're Woodland Family Homes, and they're building a bunch of luxury patio homes over in West Greeley, right off the Poudre River. And just that demographic, there's a lot of 1,400 square feet ranches, 3-bedroom, 2-bath kind
Right.
of stuff. Very nice,
Right.
because it's for that 55-year-old person that wants to age in place, kind of.
Right. Exactly.
But that's who's moving here.
Right. And in
Or out of those
Greeley
big,
and in
big
Weld
houses.
County, we're actually, they have a need for all types of housing.
Yeah.
And in Larimer County, we have a more desperate need for smaller, so that as older adults age in place, they can downsize, and families, as they grow,
It
have
should-
something to grow into. But the whole market is just backwards right
It
now.
should look more like my neighborhood, which is downtown Fort Collins, circa 1905, where everything is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath
right.
bungalow.
And we're not building that
And that's
anymore.
what most people kind of need.
Yeah, I think 10%. I think the statistic that I saw was 10% of what we're building right now is actually that 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow
2-2,
or cottage or 2-2, which is really what people need. Yet we're still building 3, 4, 5-bedroom homes.
Interesting. It's interesting to me that in some ways the role that you're talking about here is almost a little bit like the old days newspapermen and the bankers from these various regions and interests and stuff that would have these kind of community conversations, and sometimes it would be in the media,
Right.
people writing opinion pieces and stuff trying to sway public opinion, but there isn't
There isn't
really a
that
media
anymore.
and the bankers for the most part are working for a much bigger organization that doesn't care much about that particular town except for how many dollars they can make from it.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have that kind of industry leaders kind of element. You've got chambers of commerce,
Right.
of course, and that's part of your role is getting those cats all in the same room sometimes and stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting analogy, and I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but I think you're right. And so what we're trying to do in many cases is elevate the issues and bring and
Turning you
really
into journalists.
exactly, and
A little
and use data and bring people together and bring leaders together with a common desire to do better and create really the community we want to have for our kids and our grandkids. I think nobody would want a community where their kids and their grandkids can't afford to live here.
Heard.
Right? So, and so I think that is, we are this, the NoCo Foundation is, we say, sometimes we're Switzerland. We don't have an agenda. We want to use data, elevate issues, and bring people around the table to
But-
have conversation.
But
And
your
we
office
don't,
in Fort Collins, though, right? So you like Fort Collins a little more than Greeley and Loveland.
we're in South Fort Collins on
As
Harmony
close to the
Road.
triangle as we can
Exactly. We're really,
Windsor's probably the
Windsor.
most diplomatic spot. If
we
you
host
relocate
lots of
someday.
meetings in Windsor, and but we're really cognizant of that.
Right.
And in fact, we've grown out of our current office space, and we're in the process of looking.
Oh, is that right?
And that's been a big part of the conversation. Is
Yeah.
we need to be somewhere centrally located so that we can represent Greeley and Windsor and Berthoud and Johnstown equally.
Well, and for the maybe less initiated, and even just to refresh my memory, you weren't the NoCo Foundation forever. It was
So
something else,
yes.
and then you like the Sterling area even as part of your
That is.
scope now, or something.
So the very quick, I'll give you the story and the evolution. So we started in 1975.
Okay.
So we just celebrated 50 years last year, and we started as the Fort Collins Foundation.
That's what I thought.
And it was a group of community leaders that wanted to turn Lincoln Middle School into a performing arts center, which
cool.
is now the Lincoln Center.
Sure.
And so a group of community leaders got together, and they needed an organization, an entity
Kind of a vessel.
to house a vessel to house the funds that they were raising.
Yeah.
So that's how we got started. And over time, we became not the Fort Collins Community Foundation. We became the Community Foundation for Northern Colorado, and so then we were serving all of Larimer County, and Berthoud and Loveland and Estes Park are part of our geography. And then 10 years ago, the 6 counties on the far northeastern plains joined us,
Okay.
and so we've got Sterling and Haxton and Holyoke and Ray and Yuma and all of those communities
Okay.
are part of our geography as well. And that expansion happened 10 years ago.
But that bypassed Weld County.
It's
Is
interesting.
there a Weld County Foundation
There
too?
is a Weld County Community
friends?
Foundation. We're very good friends.
Okay.
But what I would say, and kind of back to those buckets, when we do our traditional community foundation work and we're working with donors and helping them with their philanthropy, we don't really work in Weld County because there is a Weld
You're
County.
honoring that,
We're
kinda.
honoring that. But when we do our third bucket work of regional solutions to
Right.
complex challenges, you can't do that without Weld.
Right.
And so we do work in Weld.
Well, and the lines are fuzzy too, right? Like, a lot of my members at LoCo Think Tank, for example, might have a business that operates in
Right.
Weld County, but they live in Fort Collins, or their business is in Fort Collins and has been for 25 years. It's where their whole network is.
Exactly.
But they live in Windsor now
These
because
borders
Pelican
are
Lakes is
really
sweet.
exactly.
You know?
They're kind of these arbitrary borders that matter in
Right.
some instances, but in most instances these days they don't matter. I'll use myself as an example. So, my family and I live in Timnath. My office is in Fort Collins.
Yep.
My son lives in Greeley. My dogs go to daycare in Severance. I go to the grocery store in Windsor.
You're crossing the county line all the time.
all day
Good thing
long.
you're not smuggling,
Yeah,
drugs or
and I don't think my
illegal
situation-
booze or something.
Yeah, and I don't think my situation is
very normal.
uncommon.
Yeah.
And we don't think about it. We go where we need to go, and we're crossing borders all day long. So why would we try to solve some of our most complex issues with these arbitrary borders?
Yeah. So especially in that regionalism bucket,
Right.
is that where a lot of your interaction with the Weld Foundation would occur?
And so
then?
we invite, and they don't do that kind of work per
Yeah.
se. And so we just invite them to partner with us
Yeah.
in the work that we're doing regionally, and they're part of those conversations.
Yeah, and then know some of the people that you need to make sure are invited to that conversation too.
Exactly. So they're terrific partners.
So, one of the big initiatives that you launched, I guess it was, I don't know if it was a launch or a relaunch, or is it Give Next or Give? It was really that focus on inviting younger
Young.
and what I guess aspiring philanthropists
yes.
to the conversation.
So one of our strategic priorities is to inspire the next generation of philanthropists. And again, by teaching that anybody can be a philanthropist. So I think what you're talking about is a program called Give Next.
Okay.
And it is, it's really a program that is of the Bohemian Foundation, and it works with
Okay.
middle and high school students throughout the Poudre School District.
Okay.
And we are a partner in that work. And
Okay.
so we help execute and help
But you have
do
an
that.
initiative on
So we-
your front too. What's that?
We have, then we also, so
You're a part of that.
we're
And-
part of that, which are younger kids. And then we said, we really need to launch something that gets and is targeted for what we would call young professionals.
Right.
Who are probably just getting started on their philanthropic journey. They're working, they're raising families, but they care very deeply about giving back.
Yeah.
And so we launched a program called NoCo Changemakers.
That's what. Yep.
And it is a cohort-based model. And what we say, it's sort of a marriage between Give Next, which is this philanthropy training program for kids, and like a Leadership Fort Collins or
Yeah.
Leadership Northern Colorado. So it's a
Kind of a
cohort-based
professional
model,
development.
professional development. It's a group of about 25
Okay.
young professionals, and I would say we use the term young loosely.
If you're young at heart.
If you're young at heart and you want to learn more about philanthropy, and they come together once a month for 9 months and really do a deep dive into philanthropy. How do you do it? What kind of values drive your philanthropy? How do you create a philanthropic strategy? And then the group does a single $25,000 grant together. And so they have to decide as a group what's most important and what nonprofit do we want to give to. And in that particular part of the program, again, it's a partnership with Bohemian, and so they match those grant-making dollars with us to make it a more meaningful pot of money for the change makers to grant. So Bohemian is also very interested in how do we inspire the next generation.
Yeah, and that's some of that collaborative notion. Like they don't want to necessarily do all that legwork to help inspire that, but if they can supplement and advocate.
It's a great partnership. Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What else would you have me know about your buckets?
My buckets. I think what I often say is that while the buckets are kind of distinct in the way that I describe them, the magic really happens when there is interaction between the buckets. The buckets are not mutually exclusive. And so when we can play matchmaker, for instance, between the donors that we're working with in bucket 1 and the nonprofits that we're working with in bucket 2, that's where we, I think, bring value, and we can introduce our donors to nonprofits in the community that are doing work in areas that they are passionate about.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we're doing bucket 3, big regional complex issue work, we want to involve the nonprofits that are engaged in similar work and bring our donors alongside us to help support the work.
Thank you to Purpose Driven Wealth of Thrivent for sponsoring our Purpose Driven Questions segment. At Purpose Driven Wealth, they believe financial clarity leads to a life of contentment and purpose. Their mission is to help guide clients using a values-driven, stewardship-based approach focused on provision, contentment, and enjoyment. With more than a century of experience, Thrivent helps individuals and families navigate life and business transitions and prepare for the future while creating space to live generously and give back in meaningful ways. To learn more about Purpose-Driven Wealth, please call 970-330-7411 for a complimentary initial consultation. And now, on to the questions. We're kind of drifting into some kind of purposeful conversation here, and we have a sponsor, Purpose-Driven Wealth Management, Clint Jasperson and his team. And we have, likewise, some purpose-driven questions.
Okay.
So I wonder if I can sample you with a couple of these ones.
You bet.
This is the one I was just reflecting on. Is there a relationship or a circumstance that's having a major impact on your sense of purpose right now, or somewhere where that's shifted? We kind of unfolded your greater journey when you were here the first time, but is there an evolution in recent years?
I think what really I've learned about myself and where I find real value and purpose is looking at a community from what I would call like a 30,000 foot level. And more so for me than digging into one particular issue, I like to figure out like what makes a community tick and who needs to be connected and what role does government, business, and nonprofit and philanthropy play in collaboration to make a community be the best that it can be. And so I think that's why I find so much joy in the work at the Community Foundation, because that's what...
It's the first time you've really had that opportunity to zoom up that high.
Exactly. That's what I get to do, and make sure that the right people are connected and talking to one another, and we're looking at things from a systems level.
It almost sounds like a political platform you could advance to your next stage.
I don't know about that.
Too
I'm not sure about that, Kurt.
Let's talk about what is the source of your internal compass, and how do you weigh, like there's a lot of ethical decision making when you're the decider of who's at the table and things like that. How do you make those tough decisions?
Goodness, that's kind of let me think about that. I think the philosophy that has driven me there is who's not at the table that needs to be, and who else needs to know, are kind of two questions that no matter what we're working on and what issue we're working to solve, always asking who else needs to be at the table and who else needs to know. And that usually drives you to the next person, which then to the next, to the
Might
next, to
unfold
the
more
next.
of those same questions.
Yeah. And so, I think also a philosophy when you're making decisions, or when I'm making decisions, is who will be most impacted by this decision? Who's closest to the impact of the decision and getting their insight and their input before you make a decision?
Yeah. This is an interesting drift off of the script here, but you've kind of made some changes in your operating model, if you will, especially in terms of, I had lunch with Scotty Haps recently, and I've known Mary for years, and you've kind of added to your team and kind of changed how your team interacts with your donors and crowd. Would you like to, well, what I was starting to think about in the ethical decisioning, you kind of poached some of the best players from the nonprofit industry. Did you catch some slack around the community for that? I'm spacing the name of the gal from PSS.
Lindsay.
Lindsay is awesome as well.
Yes. I mean, I would say that
they resonated with your mission.
Oh my goodness. We have the best team ever. And I feel so fortunate. And we really have created something special. And I think people want to be there. I think people hear about the work that we're doing and the culture that we've built. And it's exciting, forward-looking work, and it has attracted
so you don't feel
great
bad.
people. I mean, I do. I'm like, it's one of those sorry, not sorry
Sorry,
kind of
I'm so amazing.
But we're always, but we're all working toward the same good. And I hope that the organizations
they've forgiven you by now.
They've forgiven us.
Did you spread them with a little extra grant money or anything to try to soften the blow?
Can't do that, but
that
certainly
would be actually an ethical
that would not
challenge
be an
there.
ethical challenge right there. But you're right. I think we've got an amazing team.
Can you
so
talk
much
about their
energy.
Kind of they're really being kind of more. Not that they weren't engaged before, but that role seems to have expanded to be much more intentional.
So here's a specific, I think what you're getting at is something that we call our fund liaison program.
Yeah.
And it's really just a portfolio management approach. And it was something that I brought with me from my previous role, and we put in place over the last few years at the NoCo Foundation. And so if you think about the fact that we have more than 600 different funds that we manage, and that's what makes up that $265 million of
Sometimes
assets.
one person has three funds. Sometimes
Exactly.
a
So it's
family
not-
of five has one fund.
Exactly. And it could be an individual, it could be a business, it could be a family, it could be a nonprofit, but we have 600 customers. And again, it's not exactly numbers because somebody could have multiple, but how do you manage those? And so when I first got to the Community Foundation, I was asking questions about, okay, so what are our donors? What are they passionate about? What do they fund? And in my head, I was looking for like a pie chart of where's the money going? What are they funding? What passion areas? Is it food insecurity? Is it animals? Is it conservation? Is it, what are they interested in?
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like at the time we knew the answer to that question.
Like 35% of the people, they do kind of this. The other 65% of the people we don't really talk to them
No.
much. They set up their fund, and we,
Right.
kind of
So
lost touch.
we set up a very intentional way to manage those relationships, and it's really about building relationships and managing those relationships, getting to know them, getting to know what they're interested in, being able to play matchmaker, bring them ideas,
Totally.
connect them to nonprofits in the community, and as a result, after years of this shift, the most telling example of the success is that we were when I got there, we were granting pretty commonly about $7 million into the community every year.
Okay.
And after this program took root, we're now granting $16.5 million in the community.
Yeah.
And so it's really about
activating that
that generosity.
Well, I was just thinking about a couple of different things. I went to the respite care luncheon recently, and they talked obviously a lot about their new facility and the scope of how many people they can serve at a time and how many
Right.
families can get respite.
And now regional.
Totally, right? And like some people that love the cause of respite care but haven't really been involved or whatever, when they can hear about a cause like this, oh, here's this new facility that, dropping $100,000 into this capital project can be part of making the difference or whatever. Or I just had Jeff Faust from $LoCo on my podcast as well. I don't know if you're familiar much with the resource center there, but that's pretty fresh and required,
Right.
A $3 million capital campaign in a 12 or 18 month span, and bada bing, bada boom.
Right. So we see
generosity activated.
Exactly. That's our job, right? We want to activate generosity. And to do that, we have to deeply know and understand the nonprofit organizations in our community, who's doing what, who's launching a capital campaign, who's looking to raise money for, a new initiative.
Yep.
So we need to be experts in that so that we can take those opportunities to our donors.
Take it.
This episode is sponsored by LoCo Think Tank. LoCo Think Tank provides peer collaboration for business owners. We build smart, safe places to help business leaders navigate every stage of the business journey, and we love what we do and who we do it with. Our model features give-back-minded business veterans in the role of LoCo facilitators, and we're always looking for abundance-minded individuals to add to our membership, facilitator team, LoCo community, or to feature on this podcast. Listeners of this podcast who go on to become members of LoCo Think Tank get their 6th month of membership for free. Just mention the LoCo Experience podcast on your application. To learn more, visit our website at locothinktank.com. That's LoCo thinktank.com.
And we're back. So I picked this up actually from Scotty Haps last week. He gave me a left behind here, but I guess the thing I wanted to really start with is we talked about donor advised funds and some of your other toolkit things as if we're old pros, and I'm kind of more just conversationally capable. But talk about the mechanics, I guess,
Sure.
of that's kind of one of your big things, right? Is that suite of
It is.
services?
And it is. And I would say that donor advised funds nationally are the fastest growing philanthropic vehicle out there.
Oh. It was kind of a
Because
new thing when I
it
heard
was
about it
kind
20
of
years
a-
ago or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they have not been around that long, and they are the fastest growing philanthropic tool because they are so flexible and so very, very popular. And so of our 600 plus funds, the highest percentage of those are donor advised funds.
Yeah.
We also have scholarship funds. And we'll come back and I'll talk more about donor advised funds if you want to.
Yeah,
if you want
and
to
endowments
do that.
and stuff like that too,
Endowments,
right?
and so we house about 80 different nonprofit organizations. We house their endowment. So of those funds, a big part of them are the nonprofit organizations in the
If
community.
you're holding somebody's money in a donor advised fund and the nonprofit's there too, you're like, we can accommodate
Exactly.
that. We'll
It's just
do a
an
transfer.
interfund transfer. We don't even have to send it out of the building.
Don't even have to write a check.
Yeah, exactly. And so the highest percentage are donor advised funds, and then nonprofit agency endowment funds, and then probably something called designated funds, which we can get into if that's of interest. Those are less popular, but a lot of times donor advised funds will, upon the passing of a donor, they will shift to a designated fund, which is where the donor can
Kind of
lay
leave behind
out
instructions
exactly.
almost.
And so in their lifetime, they can have the flexibility of advising the dollars where they want it to go. And then upon their death, a designated fund is often part of their legacy planning.
And then who's the decider? Is that part of your services? You
It
act
can
almost like
be.
a trustee?
It can be. And so they can either say, I'd like my funds annually to go to these 3 organizations, which are the same organization that I supported in my lifetime.
Yep.
And if those organizations cease to exist, then our job would be to find something as closely aligned to that. Others donors may say, we recognize that in time and in future generations, times will change, needs will change.
Right.
And so we recognize that the community foundation will be around forever, and we will empower the community foundation to make decisions on our behalf. But maybe they might say, but I would like the funds to be spent on
It's gotta be about education and women's health or
exactly.
whatever.
So they can give us categories to make the best community decision
I
on.
derailed you a little bit. So that's the designated funds.
That's a
is
designated.
kind of third place size-wise.
Scholarship funds, so we can administer scholarships and do a lot of scholarship for young people graduating from high school and giving them the opportunity of a college education. But by and far the big
chunk.
one is donor advised funds. So
And the mechanics.
so the mechanics, the way that works, and I might start by saying, I often get a question from someone who's thinking about a donor advised fund, and they may say, well, why wouldn't I just, if my favorite nonprofits are Project Self-Sufficiency, Respite Care, and Boys and Girls Club, and I write checks to them every year out of my checkbook, why wouldn't I just keep doing that? Why would I come set up a donor advised fund and have another layer?
Right.
And so what I would say to that is both and, or certainly keep doing what feels right to you. I would never discourage anybody from philanthropy. But there are times when if somebody wants to streamline their philanthropy in one place and designate a certain amount of dollars every year into their charitable checking account, let's call it, and keep it all in one place and do it from there. You have a portal. You can log onto your portal like it's a bank account.
Yeah.
And you can say, I'd like to make a gift today. I'm going to make a $2,000 grant to these 3 organizations. It could be those same 3 organizations that I noted, but it's all in one place. All the records are in one place. You don't have to go track down tax documentation from each individual nonprofit. And the tax benefit to the donor happens the moment that those dollars come to the community foundation.
Right.
So in many cases, when there is a big event in someone's life.
Yeah, I was
and
thinking well, if you have some really highly appreciated real estate or stock, or you are selling a business, or there could be an inheritance, some kind of big life event that would potentially mean a significant chunk of those dollars would go to Uncle Sam. Right.
You can make philanthropy part of that plan and set up a donor advised fund as part of that process and avoid some of those capital gains taxes or other taxes. And then you can park those dollars into a donor advised fund. You only have one
You still got to be the
tax
decider
letter.
of where it goes down the road.
And then you have time to, sometimes when something happens quickly and you need to unload a property or appreciated stock and you don't know exactly what charity you want to give it to, you can take a breath, put it in the donor advised fund, and then have time to think about what your strategy might be.
Well, and not just make a one and done decision.
Exactly.
Like you can spread it between 5 or 10 or 20 organizations, but still get that upfront tax benefit.
And yes,
I'm all about screwing Uncle Sam out of tax dollars.
I mean, would you rather give the money to the Boys and Girls Club or Uncle Sam? Like, that's an easy one in my book. But the other thing is a donor advised fund, the funds are invested. So they're growing. Mm-hmm. So, as an example, my husband and I started a donor advised fund a few years ago with a certain amount of money that is still in the fund, yet we have granted about $15,000 into the community, and the principal is still the same. We still have more than you started with, and that's the value of compounding interest and investment. So the dollars are growing. It's all streamlined in one account. You still get to choose where the dollars are going, and you can also build it into your legacy planning. So we have a lot of donors who will start involving their kids and their grandkids in the process. And sometimes there's a family meeting to talk about, okay, we have,
Yeah, we got 10 grand to
we have
split
10
around.
grand to split around. What do we want to do as a family and what's important to us? And so it really prompts some important values-based conversations that can lead into family philanthropy.
Yeah. Those investments, like, is that almost like a financial planner? Can you invest riskier based on your timeline? And
You
is it the
can.
foundation that is the
we
decider,
have-
the investment guru?
So we have 3 different investment options
Okay.
that donors can choose from, and
Like tame, medium, and
exactly,
let's
it's
go get it.
balanced growth and conservative,
Right.
and then donor advised funds of a certain size can actually be managed outside of the foundation, and folks sometimes want to keep their
have their own money
have their
manager,
own money manager
person or something.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. But
It's
most
house money
of,
kind of at
most
that
of
point,
the
right? You're like
dollars-
trying to get it bigger so you can be
Yeah.
more generous
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, but most of the dollars are invested with us in one of those 3 funds
Yeah.
that you can choose from. And so when people ask me, well, what's the minimum? Like, how much do I have to put in to start a donor advised fund?
Sure.
And so the minimum investment is $25,000 to start a donor advised fund.
Okay.
And some people say, wow, I would have thought it was much more than that.
Yeah.
And others say, great.
When am I gonna ever
That's
have
still beyond
$25,000?
my
Yeah.
that's beyond my means. So I mentioned earlier that the NoCo Changemakers program, where we're teaching young professionals philanthropy. So we started a new product and launched a new product that is almost like a donor advised fund light,
Yeah.
if you will.
Like a
And
kid's savings account.
yeah.
but-
And so you can start a Changemakers account for $5,000. And so if someone is ready to get
approachable.
on their journey, it's much more approachable. And so there's a way to start a donor advised fund with $5,000.
I was thinking about when you were talking about that Changemakers cohorts earlier, and I didn't reflect on it, but you were talking about how it's kind of a little bit flexible. It's kind of young professionals, but there's a lot of young professionals that have made a career change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I worked 20 years in government. I'm sick of that. I started this business now. Or things like that, where they've got a real vested interest in engaging with the community and learning and building a network that isn't, you know, whatever job that they were doing for corporate for the last 20 years.
So that's why we use the term young professional
Yeah.
very loosely. So, I mean, we have I bet our cohort goes from 25 years old to 50.
Right.
It's just someone who hasn't yet felt like they have fully engaged in the community from a philanthropic standpoint and
Sure.
wants to engage, then that's who we want,
Dig it.
right?
What else would you have people know about where you're going? Is there some big, you know, far out 5-year kind of vision stuff that you and your board are talking about these days?
We've set a few years ago. We set some really big, ambitious goals. We call them our BHAG goals, our big, hairy, audacious goals. Nod to Jim Collins, and we would like to double our assets under management, and so get to 500 million of assets under management, so that we can have $250 million granted in the community.
Wow.
So it's really the granting into the community is really the main
Over that period
goal.
of time, that will
but
take,
to
though.
do that, it's the engine that drives that is having more assets
And
under
what's
management.
the period certain for that? Or is there?
So we said 10 years, and we're about 3.5 years into that 10-year
Okay,
goal,
okay.
and we're tracking.
Okay.
But
Trajectory is okay. But
exactly.
It's not a done deal yet by
but
far.
you know, we will get there, even if we had to extend the timeline a little bit. I'm not sure, but I'm a big believer that you got to set big goals and stretch and push, and you know, even if you don't quite get there, you're probably still further along. And so then the third leg of that stool of the 3 goals is to really be the go-to organization that people think about when we need to come together regionally and solve big problems.
Yeah.
So those are the big goals. I would also add to that the one big initiative that we have taken on just recently is affordable and attainable housing, which we talked a little bit about
sure.
earlier, but
Yep,
that
yep.
is a big one that we just in the last year have decided to
We're going to put some
we're
resources
going to put
into
some
this.
resources. We've hired a staff person who is
Wow.
dedicated to only to housing through the generosity of one of our donors, frankly. So one of our fund holders, our donor advised fund holders, said that
Wow.
they would fund this new position for us for the first 3 years.
Interesting.
so that we could build our capacity
It's a
for
passion
housing.
project, obviously, for them, but
Yep.
if you spending 1/8 of your time on it is not going to make a meaningful impact, really.
Exactly. So we need to increase that.
And I forget what their titles are, Lindsay and Scott and Mary and stuff.
Philanthropy advisors.
Yes. And so they're account managers in such a way that they get to know people and make sure they're activating their generosity and stuff.
Yep.
But are they also hunters?
They are.
So
They
they're
are.
going to find more people to
Exactly.
engage with your organization.
And I think what we find a lot is that people know about the Community Foundation, the NoCo Foundation, and they maybe know about donor advised funds, but they don't always fully
all together,
understand
for
how
sure.
it works. And so there's a lot of education that we can do, and we try to do it in a very, in
Non-judgmental
non-pressure way. We do something
Yeah.
called Philanthropy Socials, where we'll just do a happy hour with folks and share a little bit about what we do and how we do it. We
Yep.
do something I host every other month. I host President's Lunch and Learns, where we invite 20 people in for lunch to learn our story. And so I think just constantly sharing our story so more and more people can be ambassadors for us, and anybody out there that wants to really fine-tune and streamline their philanthropy, that they think of us as their go-to.
Is the podcast going to continue to have investment into it in the months ahead as well? Do you have some a guest slate upcoming as well?
Yes, we do. We do. We have a housing episode that is about to launch where Ann Hutchison from the Chamber and Brooke Cunningham, who is our staff person on housing.
Is that right? Yeah, she was neighbor to neighbor.
She was neighbor to neighbor.
So she's a subject matter expert for sure.
She is another one that we poached.
Right. Getting a reputation.
Oh, I know.
It's okay. Hi, Brooke, if you're listening. Miss you at Rotary.
So and so going to Rotary, for instance, and that's another great way to
sharing
share
the
our
story.
story.
Yeah.
But yeah,
By the way, it feels like you should be a Rotarian. Do you have any Rotary roots?
I don't have any Rotary roots, but here's a fun story. When I first came to the Community Foundation, and I just hit my 5-year mark,
Okay.
the first group that I went to speak to in the community was the Breakfast Rotary
that's my
Club.
club.
Is that your club?
That's my club.
And I will never forget how nervous I was because
Yeah,
I was brand
kind of
new
new to town too,
And
right?
new town, new position. The language I wasn't yet fully familiar with, DAFs and this
how
and
dressy should I
complex
be at a Rotary
assets
Club?
and exactly I remember that, and it's just sort of
And how did we treat you?
you all were great, and it was I survived, and I think I did okay, but certainly
I must have been playing hooky that day. If I'm honest. I don't think I met
do
you
you
then.
remember that?
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't
it
think
it was my very first kind
Cool.
of community engagement. So anyway,
Well, it seems like you have the heart of a Rotarian.
I do. I love Rotarians, and I love that. I lived in Denver for almost 20 years, and Rotary's kind of not a thing in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, they've got
it
some
is
clubs
here,
and stuff, but it's more vibrant
not.
here for
Yeah,
sure.
it is, and I love that. And
Well, it's because we have that sense of community. And like the Loveland Rotary Club and the Greeley Rotary Club is one of the bangers of the whole region.
really strong, and Kiwanis and Sertoma and service clubs, they're
Yeah.
just really strong and really active. And I think you're right. It speaks to the overall environment of how people care.
Yeah. Let's talk about you more.
Okay.
Like we've been talking about your work and how great the people at the Community Foundation are and stuff, but how do you spend your time when you're not at work? Do you want to give a shout out to your special fella, your kids, things like that?
Yeah, my youngest probably would be embarrassed, but I'll embarrass him anyway. So my husband John, we've been married 18 years and moved up here together 5 years ago. We were all in Denver together. Second marriage for both of us, and so it's a little bit of a blended Brady
It's a
Bunch
nice
family.
long-term second marriage. So.
Yes. So he has 4 adult children. 3 live in Denver. One's in Seattle. We have 1 grandchild in Denver, who's 3.
Awesome.
And then I have 1 adult son who lives in Greeley.
Okay.
And then we have 1 son together.
Okay.
Charlie.
And how old's Charlie?
He's 15. He just turned
cool.
15. So it's like he's an only child because his
Right, he's never
siblings
really had that
never really
experience.
had. But he's at Timnath Middle High School. We live in Timnath. He
Okay.
plays tennis. Just got his learner's
Oh,
permit.
that's
So
exciting.
like,
Has he got some game on the ping pong table?
yeah.
A lot of times
Ping-
kids with tennis players are the kids that beat me.
Yeah, yep. He's got good ping pong skills. I don't know, some video game that they were all waiting for just dropped. That's the, last weekend, and it
Okay.
was a driving game.
Oh.
So anyway, I think
Well, that's good. He should pass the learner's permit test.
exactly. I think there's something
easy.
to that. So he's been
Was
playing
he's
this
been
game
eager for
very much so.
driving?
It's funny. My older son did not like. I don't know. It was years
Well,
before
it's
he was
cultural
really engaged.
now.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids are like, "Oh, I guess I'm 19 now. I should get my driver's
Mm-hmm.
license." And we were like itching for it when
I
we were
know.
14.
We were like in line the minute we were old enough. So yeah, Charlie was more like that. And so he's driving. He's driving mostly with me.
Yep.
I think my husband is the first to say like he's probably not good at being the parent driver without a
Gets a little too
passenger
excited.
side.
Is your husband
brake.
good at being the passenger when you're driving?
No. No. So he comes by
Carries
it.
through.
He comes by it honestly, and it carries through. He likes to tell me how to drive. So anyway, so Charlie and I are going to probably do most of the driving together.
Cool.
Let's see. How do we spend our time? We have a cabin up on the way to Red Feather, and
cool.
so we spend as much time as we can up there. And
Yeah.
it's nice because it's only a little bit more than an hour away,
Right.
so it's
Yeah,
easy
My wife
to
and
get
I
up there.
go up there quite a bit. A
Yeah.
friend of ours has some property in Crystal Lakes.
Yep. So we're not far from there, and
So hiking and
anything-
stuff.
hiking.
Canoeing, or you
canoeing. Not
use the
really
lakes?
Canoeing.
Not really.
We haven't really used the lakes.
Do you paddle
But
boards?
hiking, paddle boating is something that I want to
paddle
do.
board.
Paddle boarding. Sorry,
Yeah.
I knew when I said that
You
it wasn't right.
should.
I want to learn paddle boarding. I've been once or twice, but I think I would really like
And
it.
you don't have to feel self-conscious about, standing and like not falling in and stuff. They're great, especially inflatable ones. You can throw 4 of them in the back of your car and go
And-
inflate them at the lake, float around all day completely freely,
Yeah.
and then unpack them back up
Yeah.
and throw them in your shed. That's what I love about it.
Yeah,
is so-
I think I would really like that. So I need to
All right,
check
John.
that out.
You heard.
Check that out. We
when's
need
your
a-
birthday,
a-
Kristen?
December.
Oh, we don't want to wait that long.
No.
Early
Need
birthday
it-
present,
exactly. A half
Memorial Day
birthday.
weekend.
There you go.
Yeah, something like that.
And I grew up, so I grew up in Louisiana and on the water, and so I was
Okay.
big fan of. We
Kinda
were
missing
big
that a
sailing
little bit.
family and just beaches all nearby, and so I miss the water. So I think I would enjoy that.
Do you get beaches in your life regularly, and where do you
I
choose?
try as hard as I can. So my family
You work too hard.
is more of a only because yes, I work too hard, but I love it, so it doesn't feel like I work too hard. But I was mostly saying my family would, if they had a choice, they would choose to ski and go to the mountains on any vacation.
I see.
And I'm outnumbered because
You're
my
competing
choice
for
would
that.
probably be go to the beach.
Gotcha.
So every once in a while they throw me a bone and we go to the beach, but most
2 out of 3
vacations
times, it's,
exactly most vacations.
up to the
So
hills.
we have this trip coming this summer where we're going to Norway and we're going to Scandinavia. So Norway and
So there's water involved
Sweden,
for
there
you.
is some water.
But it's kind of like winter.
it is. And
Ish.
Charlie, our son, and his friend kind of came up with this idea and this itinerary and pitched it to us. And like, how do you say no to 2 15-year-old boys who've made this whole presentation?
Take it.
So we're going to Scandinavia, but I thought, Charlie, don't you want to go to Greece or like somewhere really nice and warm?
Here's a tip for your backyard at the cabin is molky.
Molky.
Molkky.
Okay.
It's like the Finnish summer cabin tradition. And there's a dozen pins, and you throw a big pin at it, and you score by either how many pins you knock down
Okay.
or by the number on the top of the one pin. If you only get one pin, then you get that number. And then you stand them up where they fell. So the game kind of spreads. It's kind of a math and
okay.
it's
Molky.
check it out.
Okay, I will check.
MOLKKY. It's a beautiful game for beautiful weather
Okay.
and fun people, and it plays small and packs
Yeah.
small.
Nice. Okay.
So
yeah.
especially since you're going to, if you can show up there.
Going to the
in
homeland,
Norway, or
yeah.
if you go into Finland at all and show off your mulky skills that are already evident, you will impress a lot of
Okay.
people.
Good to know.
And what do you think Charlie's going to do with himself? I know he's young yet, but is he
is.
going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a race car driver?
He is such a great kid. I'll brag for a moment because he's just he just has a good head on his shoulders. And so he is a good student and an athlete. I don't know what he's going to do. He's really good in math and science.
Won't hurt him.
And won't hurt him. And he's a bit of a perfectionist, and I don't know where he gets that.
I'm
But
sure his dad knows.
they recently took the PSAT as a freshman,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he came home and he said, "I'm going to shoot for a perfect score." And I thought, who on earth cares about getting a perfect score on the PSAT? But Charlie did. And he came home and he got his scores recently, and he was like 2 questions
close.
off of getting a
Dang.
perfect score. So
Pretty impressive.
he is he's very impressive. But I don't know, he'll do something, but probably math, science related.
Yeah, dig it. You mentioned at the break that you are not a hot sauce aficionado, but that you are willing.
I'm game.
And so I'm going to break this out a little bit. Talk to me about your when you do have hot sauce in your life. How are you doing it?
How am I doing it? Okay. Well, my favorite food is Mexican, and so
All right, we've got a good start there.
probably So that gives you an opportunity to have some
Yeah, a lot
hot
of-
sauce, and I don't know.
Do you have a favorite local hot sauce, like a Horsetooth hot sauce, or anything like that?
I don't think
or
I know enough to know.
You're a dabbler, not a
Yeah.
not a.
Yeah, but I'm a good sport, and I'm game for almost anything. So I'm up for whatever challenge you're about to pass my
present
way.
to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just. I washed my hands real good right before we came back from the break, but I'm gonna give you a drip and a more substantial.
And here, when I do
option.
eat really hot things,
I get sweaty.
I get sweaty too. So that's what I'm anticipating.
You won't get sweatier than me, I promise. Oops, that
Okay.
was quite a bit. Not too bad though. This is made by Matador Mexican Grill, where you can pick up your own crazy ginger hot sauce. I clarified with Ginger Graham that I was not thinking about her when I came up with this
Crazy
hot
ginger.
sauce. But it's got a lot of fresh ginger, fresh garlic, a lot of habaneros, and peaches is the number 1 ingredient.
Interesting.
So grab
Okay.
any of those that look compelling to you.
Okay.
And you can move your face away from the microphone a little bit if you don't want people to hear the crunch too bad.
Okay. All right. Tell me when.
Okay, we'll do it now.
Okay.
I'm going to be looking for your tasting notes once you've had a chance to process.
It's burning the tip of my tongue.
What was the first contact point for you?
But okay, I can do
Splendid.
that.
You want another one?
Yeah, I can
Huh?
do that.
You can take your choice there when you're ready. I like it. I'm already sweating a little bit. I got a light glaze.
I feel my face heating up. I feel like I'm turning red.
So you would say that you do endorse the crazy ginger hot sauce? Is that true?
Yeah, it's good. Got a good flavor.
You're right down by there. Matador Mexican Grill is just down the street from you. So if you would like to add that to your...
They have really good
order.
breakfast burritos.
They do have really good breakfast burritos. I miss it. There's 2 things that I miss about banking, because I worked down there right across the street at Capital West Bank, was my last stop. I miss the expense account that somebody else pays for. And I miss working
I've
kitty
never
corner
really
across
had
the
that in the
street from-
nonprofit sector. That's not really
You
a
don't
thing.
have
but
you can't...
I can't.
If you buy me lunch, NoCo Foundation doesn't pay for that?
No, they will, but it isn't. It's just you think about it, and you think about like what's appropriate and what's not. It's not
sure.
like there's an expense account that you don't.
True.
So that's the only thing.
But when it's the bank's money, it's just different than when it's my money.
Yeah. No, I hear you for sure.
The NoCo Foundation has a lot of money.
Yeah. Yes.
And you're a steward
and
at heart.
everything that we're spending on lunch is money that's not being spent in the community. So like that goes through your mind as
Sure,
you're thinking
yeah.
about it. But no, we'll buy you lunch.
Fair enough. Especially if you're considering opening a donor advice
Exactly. If I can get you to open a donor advice fund, I'll buy you 2 lunches.
fund. And I have stumped Kristin momentarily on the LoCo experience that she would like to share, but I have the opportunity to offer a LoCo experience, which is the most local spirits you can get just about is Seed and Spirit Distilling. That's our spirit sponsor. And this is their signature product, WizCal, a mezcal whiskey blend that makes for wonderful cocktails, but for the purposes of this show, we're just going to shoot it.
All right.
Are
I'm
you ready
intrigued.
for that?
I think I am.
I can hand this to you.
Okay. I had no idea I was going to
so
get all
the-
these refreshments and
Yeah.
snacks on the show.
It's a
That's
full
awesome.
LoCo
Thank you to the
experience.
sponsors.
Sure. Thanks to Seed and Spirit, and thanks to the Community Foundation. Thanks for being here.
Cheers. Thank you.
And we'll need your tasting notes here as well.
Ooh,
Do you like mezcal?
I do.
Do you like whiskey?
Well, kind of.
Not as much.
I'm not a huge whiskey fan, but that I like it like that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's different.
Would you choose that? Would you choose mezcal over that usually, though, because it's got that little bit more smoky?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would. Yeah. No, that's good.
Cool. I like
Okay.
it. Well, shout out. You got another happy sampler out here, Seed and Spirit. Good job, Joel. No, but these guys actually went as far as to grow some of their own grain and harvest it. Like they bought an old combine down by Alamosa. And
You're kidding.
Yeah, so they're
I
like
love
hyper
that.
local and do it all the way from bottom to top.
Very nice.
So, and they have a tasting room opening soon in the former Funkworks. Maybe a month out.
Really?
Yeah. So
Very nice.
go check it out.
Okay, I will.
Have you thought of any? Oh, instead of maybe the LoCo experience that you thought you were going to share, let's just talk about the most inebriated you've ever been.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, you're speaking to someone who grew up in New Orleans,
Okay, all right.
and
So
so
you have
I started
been,
young.
You have been on that train before.
I
What
have
was
been on that-
culturally normal
Well,
around there?
Growing up in that culture and in that environment where drinking and partying was just a big part of
Everything.
right everything.
Yeah.
And at the time, the drinking age was 18, so that was
Which
an
meant the real
added-
drinking age was 15.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so it was kind of a crazy environment. I think about my poor mother and my parents having to put up with me growing up then. And this was before we had cell phones and before
Right.
you could be in touch.
Right.
So anyway,
But you were still a pretty young gal out there partying.
I was,
getting-
yeah. I kind of got most of it out of my system in high school, to be honest with you.
Really?
And I went to college, went to the University of Georgia in Athens, and my friends didn't quite know what to make of me because
You were already
I
done with
was
your
already,
party hard
yeah,
years.
yeah. So I taught them a thing or two. But then I kind of settled down in college. So
So
I
you're not going
did
to
it
tell us
early.
about the specific most inebriated that you recall?
Well, I remember it had something to do with Jägermeister.
Oh.
How about we just leave it at that?
I actually worked at a restaurant in college, and that was kind of the standing shift closing shot. Was a shot of Jägermeister.
In the
And-
freezer?
Yep.
Yeah,
It was ice
yeah,
cold.
yep.
And it got to the point where you're looking forward to the end of your shift anyway, because it means like I can go party
Yep.
in downtown or whatever. But I would start salivating as soon as like somebody poured a shot of Jägermeister, even if it wasn't for me. I'd be like,
big-
does that mean it's the end of my shift?
A Pavlovian response
Yeah, I had
there.
a very
yeah.
Pavlovian. It isn't as strong anymore, but I can still
Yeah.
enjoy a good Jäger
Well,
shot.
and
once in a
I
while.
came to it honestly because my Dutch grandfather, I can remember him having a bottle of Jägermeister in the freezer growing up.
Have a
So,
little nip whenever.
yep.
Have you thought of a proper LoCo experience story to share to end our?
I don't know what a proper one is. I feel like there's so much pressure, Kurt.
I don't
I don't know.
Any was there a international travel that was really extreme in your lifetime? You backpacked in Borneo or anything like that?
Hey, when I was in college, girlfriend and I backpacked for a semester, and so we had a Eurail pass and a backpack, and I also grew up. My family is Dutch, and so I had lots of relatives in Holland, and we kind of used that as home base.
Oh,
But
okay.
so yeah, we traveled for a semester, and
Wow.
it was.
So you were not going to school, obviously.
No,
you
we
took a
weren't.
semester out of school.
We
and
traveled.
you're like, we're just going to go.
We did a. Yeah, we called it our junior year abroad, but really there was no classes
Were you
involved.
staying
It's
in like
just-
hostels and
we
stuff
stayed
like
in
that?
hostels. We were Eurail pass, which I'm not even sure exists anymore. And
Right.
what we would do is it was crazy. Okay, here's the LoCo experience for you.
All
We'd
right,
go
we found
into.
it.
we would take overnight trains because it was
Oh,
cheaper.
then you could sleep on
yeah,
the
you
train.
could sleep on the train. So we would walk. We'd be partying, and then we'd walk into the train station at like 11 and look up at the list
yeah.
to see, and we'd just pick a place to the next train that was going. We're like, okay, let's go
wake up in
let's go
Madrid.
to Budapest and get on the night train and sleep, and we'd wake up in the morning in Budapest and spend the day, and
Yeah,
then do
yeah.
the same thing. Show up in the train station 11 p.m. and see where we wanted to go the next day.
And like, how did you get around? Like, as far as, would you just find a map in the train station when you got to Budapest? And
Yeah.
you're like, let's go to this
Yeah.
sector of town. It looks like downtown. There's probably a cafe open.
Yep, maps and at that
Yeah,
point,
old
really,
school.
it was all old school, right? I mean, we didn't have like phones and internet and
Totally.
maps that we were carrying on our phones. So, yeah, maps, and you'd find other travelers and just
Sure.
connect.
They'd be like, yeah, you should actually definitely go
Yeah.
here. Like, don't
Yeah,
bother with
exactly. A
Rome.
lot of word of mouth by the fellow travelers and the
Dang
fellow
it.
backpackers.
I want to do that now.
I know, wouldn't that be great?
Let's do it. We could double date, bring our spouses.
There you go. Yeah,
Just a
travel
semester.
Europe for months. Yeah, it was awesome. It was really
I
awesome.
dig it. Well, that story actually very well qualifies for the LoCo
Okay.
Experience podcast. So thank you. People want to look you up. Do they just find you on your website, on LinkedIn? Are you famous there?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, NoCoFoundation.org, or you can Kristin Todd on LinkedIn.
Cool.
I'm pretty easy to find.
Go subscribe
Yep.
and listen, and then give a review for
Yep,
NoCo
NoCo
Voices.
Voices. Find us and follow us, and yeah, follow us on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thanks for
for-
sharing time.
You bet. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
Great to have you.
It's a pleasure.
Bye for now. Hi, this is Kurt Baer, host of the LoCo Experience, and I wanted to let our listeners know that beginning in June of 2026, we're going to be releasing podcast episodes on Wednesday mornings instead of on Saturdays. So we've tested Saturdays for a while. Meh. Honestly, we were better on Wednesdays before, so we're heading back to that, and I hope to see you there every Wednesday with a new episode of the LoCo Experience.